So, hi everybody. Hi, this is I am Reverend Denise Schubert, and thank you for joining me on this special edition of Sunday Night Alive, which I'm going to call it Friday Night Alive. I was just inspired to do it. Well, if I have new visitors here, I'm actually the founder and founder of A Life of Spiritual Power. And this is one of the ways that we express into the world is through Sunday Night Alive. We're really an organization that is about awakening to, through the use of mental laws and principles to a greater idea of life, a greater idea of our own life, and to truly work to be a beneficial presence on this planet. And with all the events going on and people talking to me and I'm listening, and it seems there's so much, I don't know, something going on. It felt like this would be a great time to have this talk. I have been giving this talk for 25 years. It was actually inspired by Dr. Ernest Holmes. Now, I'm calling it beef, whoops, hello. Before something, against nothing. It's kind of a radical idea in today's world, but you'll see as we move through that there's no really other way to be. There's really no other way to be. Why? Because we live in a lawful universe, and to be against something is to perpetuate the thing that you're against. So, I'm having a little issue with this. Anyway, so Ernest Holmes was addressing a group of ministers at a Silomar in California, and it was a very long talk. It was called The Sermon by the Sea. But one of the things he said, and I first heard this about 20 years ago, and he said, it would be wonderful indeed if a group of people should arrive on Earth for something and against nothing. And I have to tell you that when I first heard that, it kind of blew my mind. I have been thinking about it and contemplating it and dissecting it ongoingly for all of these years. And it just gets deeper and deeper and deeper and richer for me. So I'm thrilled to really share my experience of how it feels to live in this energy, for energy instead of against energy, what the consequences are, the effect it has on our world, the effect it has on you. So it's hard to do, though, for many reasons, right? It's very hard to do. But the truth is that if you're listening to me, you are probably a seeker of sorts, wanting to raise consciousness, wanting to awaken to a greater, excuse me, hold on. I may have to go get some water, but we'll see. But for us to not try to abandon this against energy is to truly perpetuate the very things we are against. To not do it continues to guarantee the physical and emotional consequences of what goes on. And to not do it keeps us and the world in a constant state of bondage, fear, doubt, and worry. And it's not easy because we live in an against culture. So what that means is in normal conversation, and maybe not for those of us who are a little bit a ways down the road, but in normal everyday conversation, like I live in a 55 plus community. I know it's hard to believe, but what? And I go to the pool and listen. And the against energy is all people talk about is what they don't like, who they don't like, why they don't like them, what they don't want, what they don't support, what isn't working. So most of our communications are judgmental or angry or disenchanted or hopeless. Did anyone besides me have a parent who says, if you can't say anything nice, don't say anything at all? My parents did say that, but however, what came out of their mouths wasn't particularly uplifting, inspiring, or soothing, or positive, or complimentary, or praising, right? So they too, were raised in this culture, or raised in this environment of being against. And it's easy to think that we live in a universe. So there's a lot going on. COVID-19 is going on. The protests are going on. It's kind of like really crazy out there, right? And it's really easy to feel like we have no control, like we're just here, and that we have to maneuver and manage and manipulate this physical world as best we can, given all the chaos. And very seldom do we consider ourselves to be part of this chaos, that like we're in some way participating in the world the way that it is. So we need to understand, and I don't know if you were with me a few weeks ago when we talked about spiritual laws and principles, or mental laws and principles, I'm calling them that, so people don't get freaked out about the word spiritual in any way, because I really want to have conversations with absolutely everyone. So really, mental laws and principles that govern our lives, just like physical laws and principles govern our physical lives. So most people want happiness for themselves and other people, and they have no idea how much they have no idea the impact of their thinking, the impact of their talking, and the impact of their actions. And they don't know yet really how much better the world would be if they could swivel, if they could shift out of the negativity into a more positive outlook. So in order, Ernest Holmes said this most profound thing. He said, change your thinking. If you want to change your life, change your thinking, right? If you want a different life, have a different thought. It sounds so simple, but it is truly awesomely profound. So we have to approach our lives, all of us, not just from the physical and the material. We have to approach it from another place, a deeper place. Loving and compassionate responses require the inclusion of our understanding of mental laws and principles. It includes our understanding that we are more than this, that we are connected to each other. I spoke last Sunday that we are like leaves on the same tree, that you truly are my brothers and sisters, that love is truly the truth between our souls, even though we have never met each other. And that when we operate against that, in any way, we are diminishing the integrity of the universe. So stay with me here. So I'm going to get practical in a moment. We're just setting the stage to why this is such an important conversation. Jean Houston is one of our primary humanitarians of this century, and she wrote a book called The Possible Human. And in this, she did the foreword to the most recent version of the Science of Mind textbook that Ernest Holmes wrote. And she said this thing. She said, the core of each human being is the original creative genius of the universe. We are therefore the lensing of God's stuff on earth, the focalization of eternity in time. Consciously or unconsciously, and I personally would add whether we like it or not, we direct the flow of universal mind into form. So whatever you call this power, this presence, this intelligence, this harmony, that God, whatever you call it, these ideas, God, as an abstraction, offers no relief to a world fraught with poverty, war, and suffering. That this idea we're talking about today will give us a clue as to why the prayers of billions of people over thousands of years has not experienced the outward manifestation equivalent to the prayers that have been spoken. So we're kind of coming into an understanding that our idea about the universe and how it works has got to be wrong. It's got to be something other than what we've been raised up in, whatever the world that we're maturing, that consciousness is expanding, awakening is taking place. So we have to really shift these spiritual laws and principles away from abstraction into experience so that we actually embody them. They become, we talk about oftentimes that God is both transcendent and immanent. It's outside of us and also within us. So the belief in the power of love, the belief in the law of attraction, the belief in the laws of cause and effect don't work very well as an abstraction, as a transcendent reality. They only really work really well when they're within you and we're expressing them. So to be against is a kind of I'm sorry, I don't know why this is not working. I may have to abandon it. Anyway, is a kind of misuse of spiritual laws and principles. So what we know about spiritual mental laws and principles, and the simplest way I would put it is that the universe says yes. When you plant a carrot seed into the soil, there's nothing in the physical laws or the mental laws that can say in any way, I just really don't feel like growing a carrot today. I think I'm going to grow a tomato. So no, I will not grow you a carrot. It's only yes, of course, I'll grow you a carrot. You plant a carrot seed, I'm going to grow you a carrot. Same with gravity. Gravity only says yes, just because gravity cannot say, oh, I really like this person, so when they jump off this building, I'm not going to let them go splat. So when we say, I am against this person, or I'm against this law, or I'm against, like a physical, like a political law or a world law, or you say, I don't like what's happening here, the universe agrees and brings you more of those people. So if you say, I don't like mean people, you're going to be inundated with mean people in your experience, because it's simply how the law works. When you say, I am poor, the universe says, yes, you are poor, and brings you more poverty. When you say, I am abundant, the universe says, yes, you are, and brings you more abundance. So the energy is a totally different energy to be for than to be against. We cannot help the world. We cannot help the world with our hatred of the things we don't like. And in your joy, you offer the world joy. So is this making sense? Ways of dealing with this, but I'm just wanting us to see that if we want there to be peace, we have to start to create peace out of war. You cannot. And when you are at war with anything in the world, you are just holding it in place. So I believe it was Emerson who said, that if you are here, God must be in need of an organ. So you are the hands, the feet, the heart, the talking, the thinking, the creating. And if as organs of these visible realities with your thoughts, actions, feelings, then directing our thoughts in positive, affirming, powerful ways will generate affirming, powerful, and positive outcomes. Because that's how it works. That's the carrot seed you're planting. So if the invisible substance of the universe becomes visible in such a way that it could create visible war, by virtue of their habit, produce visible peace. And to know that I'm part of that creative process, I'm part of how that happens, is an awesome responsibility. And also you should be feeling some freedom. There's some freedom. It's like, I can do something. I can do something. So I know that it's not normal. I know that it's not normal to be so peaceful in the face of so much chaos. I really do know that. It seems to us only logical to declare which side we're on. I'm going to be for this and against this. Nobody supports violence or abuse or war or murder or any of that. And it can seem that unless we fight against it, unless we fight, it will continue to happen. But I want to tell you, it's never not happened. This for and against has never solved anything, that the world still abuse. This, it's people are still sick and depressed, and that it seems we need to find a new way of being. Now, for those of you who know me, always that the for till the day I die is that the only way we can change the world is by changing us. It's the only way. The only way we can have a peaceful world is to create peaceful citizens, or healthy citizens, or happy citizens, or abundant citizens. We cannot do it by force. We cannot do it by manipulation. We cannot do it by praying to a reluctant deity. We can't do it by being against all the things that we don't like. So all of the work, all of the heavy lifting begins at home with us. Now, this, by the way, does not mean in any way that we condone or allow people who are evolving in consciousness by all of the deeds that I just described. It's not that you let them do it. We have to protect our citizens, so we have to do something. Do you understand what I'm saying? It's not like you want to give permission to the outpicturing of unhealed people. No, is that it doesn't matter who this person is. If they're a murderer, a bomber, an abuser, it does not matter who this person is. That if he or she is doing those things, that they are doing those things because they were raised up. There's a lack of self-love, self-respect. They've been harmed. There's something they feel, something about their past. And you and I can relate to this to a degree. We're not that person, but I can certainly look back and realize that I have become a better person as I have been awakened to my true identity, right? That I have found and said, your life is as significant as the greatest harbinger of peace. You are cherished by the Spirit as you are as cherished by the Spirit as any avatar, master, or saint who ever walked the planet. So the way the world works, that when we are able to extend ourselves in such a way to everybody, wanting the best for everybody, that something kind of magical really happens. So what can you and I do, right? So what can you and I do to take responsibility for creating the world we want to live in? If I can get this to work, which I may not here, let me, I'm going to come back here and do this. Okay, we'll try. So the first one is to practice radical compassion. So radical compassion is what I was just talking about, this kind of understanding that you extend to all beings everywhere. Because in some ways, I'm going to talk about God again for a second in a kind of a personal way, that God loves the saint and the sinners, right? There cannot be an intelligence in this universe it's not a viable way. So we have to find our way to do the same. So to offer compassion to the saint and the sinner. And I remember Michael Beck was saying, that it looks like you offer compassion, which is the understanding of their lack of understanding. Because if you were to reveal to that person the truth of their being, the love inside of them, if you could get them to recover from life like we're all recovering from life, right? They probably wouldn't even kill another ant. Awakened people do not kill, do not rob, do not rape, do not steal. They just do not do it. So our goal has got to be to raise consciousness and awaken the world to their spiritual magnificence. It has to be that way. And, I don't know about you, but I myself, I can remember things I did and said that horrify me a little bit. Like, really? Because if I had known better, if I had been more aware, if I'd been more in love with myself, more in love with life, I would have never ever done or said those things. So even though we're not killers, we can relate to the kind of blindness and darkness until the light comes. So practice radical compassion. The second one is, I don't know. This is, so the second one is practice true forgiveness. Since everyday grace. So true forgiveness really just means true forgiveness. You just let people off the hook. You let yourself off the hook. You realize that everybody is doing the best that they can do. They can only be where they are. You'll see when we get to the next one, there's another component in here, but true forgiveness. I want to just tell you the story. This is from Everyday Grace from Marianne Williamson. She's telling a story about Cinderella. And she says, I'm going to preface it a little bit. She says, as children of God, we have been given free will. We can think with God or not think with God, but we cannot limit the creative power of our thoughts. When our thoughts are thoughts of love, then we are aligned with and receive God's power. When our thoughts are judgmental, then we are choosing to turn our back to God. We can no longer see the light being shined on us when we stop shining it on others. So she says, Cinderella's fairy godmother, right? So Cinderella, that stepmother of yours is such a bitch. We'll show her, right? Marianne Williamson's word, not mine. So she could not have said those things or even thought them and retained her mystical powers. So she could not have been angry. She could not have been looking to condemn. She would never say that or even think them. She would have lost her power. Though, obviously, the fairy godmother knew something was off, or else she would not have come to rectify it. She came in aid of Cinderella, right? And she would not have brought her magic wand. So the fairy godmother came to heal, not to judge. And by the way, Marianne says, Cinderella's refusal to surrender to thoughts of hatred and retribution is part of what drew her fairy godmother to her in the first place. That her willingness to see it in a different way, her willingness to not to condemn, actually beckoned her help. Marianne says it takes tremendous faith in the power of love, tremendous faith in the power of love to refuse to hate, despise, and reject those who behave in hateful ways. So we can learn from this, right? So now the next one is really probably, I think, the hardest one. And for those of you who have been studying with me, that I say it's perhaps the hardest. If you miss that, it says, relinquish all, yes, all judgment. So all judgment. It is so easy for us, right where we are, to say, I'm right, you're wrong, they're right, they're wrong. But I just want you to know that we are not in any position to judge another person of what's going on. We don't know that person's history. We don't know the facts. So we have to replace judgment with something else. And of course, there's lots of teaching on judgment, right? Judge lest you not be judged. You point your finger at me and there's one pointing right back at you. So say, just notice when you're doing it and stop doing it. Just let it be. And I don't care whether it's the president or the police officer or yourself or a friend or the people who don't wear masks in the stores right now. Whatever it is you're saying is bad and wrong, you need to stop. Why? Because it's a misuse of mental laws. Because the moment you say it's bad and wrong, you call it forward. Are you getting this? Okay. So the next one is to remember that today's thoughts create tomorrow's experience. Change your thinking, change your life. Change your attitude in this moment, whether it's money or health or your relationship or your body or being locked in your, being shut into your house or whatever it is, just remember that you hold the power in this moment to speak your word, to think your thought, to feel your feelings. And that doing that alone is going to change your outcome next week, next year, 10 years from now. If you want your 10 years from now to be different than the last 10 years have been, you have to remember that today's thoughts create tomorrow's experience in a very real way. We talked about this. These mental laws are as real as gravity. All you can do is use them. They're actually using you. But when you're asleep, they're using you. When you're awake, you're using them. So you want to use the law of attraction on your behalf. You want to use the law of cause and effect on your behalf. You want to use the laws of you want to use the laws of reciprocity, mental equivalence, all of these. You want to use them to make this a better world and to make your life a better life. You have to avoid conversations that tear people down. Don't trash people. Don't be trash talking. Don't be trash talking about people, any people, because they're either, when Jean Houston says, the core of each human being is the original creative genius of the universe, she didn't say some human beings. She said the core of each human being. So all of those people that you judge, all of those people that you don't like, all of those people that you think aren't as good as you, all of those people that you understand what I'm saying, that they deserve to be raised and praised. They deserve to be healed. They deserve to be awakened. And when you tear people down, when you don't raise and praise them, when you diminish them, then you diminish yourself. It's just because why? Because we are leaves on the same tree, right? Because we're all connected in some way or another. Can you see why this conversation is so important right now? Because it's so divisive. It's like life is divisive. And we just need to do our part. We need to do our part. So you want to engage in conversations that raise people, that bring people up. so if you can't, so if you really can't do that, then say nothing. But don't gossip. Don't find somebody and say, "Oh God, he's such a blah blah blah." Blah, blah. It's not healthy. And by the way, it's not healthy. None of this against energy is very bad for your body. Bruce Lipton, I love his primary idea in his book, The Biology of Belief. His primary idea is this: when you think hateful, fearful, angry thoughts, your brain secretes chemicals into your body that are toxic, which cause disease. And by the way, he's a cellular biologist, so I kind of believe him, right? And I kind of believe him I believe it on a spiritual level, and he's actually backing it up on a physical level. And he says, when you are feeling compassion and love and joy, and you're in the beauty and awe and wonder, your brain secretes healing chemicals, which heal your body. So all of this against energy is not good for the world. It's not good for your pocketbook. It's not good for your body. It's just not good. So we want to shift into for energy, be for something, be for peace. Mother Teresa was asked to participate in a war rally, and she said no. She said, when you ask me to participate in a peace rally, I will come. Right? So let's see, what else? Think about things when you start thinking about things you don't want. I don't want war. I don't want these 5 pounds. I don't want whatever it is, the don't wants. Change it and think about something you do want. That's all. Just think about what you do want, not what you don't want. And by the way, this might take some training, because we're so, as I said earlier, we're so in an against culture. We're so in a negative culture. We look for what's missing. We don't look for what's there, or we don't look for what's possible. So you want to shift the way that you are. Change your thinking, change your life. Until you can hear or watch the news as a prayer request or as a blessing request, don't watch it. Listen, we don't even know how much of it's real, not real, true, not true. I do know that the culture that's riles up negativity and against energy, it lives in our media and in our TVs. So if it riles you up and causes you to be angry and causes you to be afraid, just give it a rest. Just give it a rest. Read a book instead. Have some tea. Take a bath. Listen to some music. Play with your kids. Play with your cats. So I don't know how many of you are on this call who I don't know, or who are not part of Centers for Spiritual Living. But for those of you who don't know, I am a ordained Centers for Spiritual Living minister. And as part of our history and organizationally was this thing called this Global Heart Vision that I loved so much. It was actually, I had dropped out of my training, and I heard this Global Heart Vision. It really yanked me right in, because I knew that it was something I wanted to be a part of. And I want to share a little piece of it with you, because it's actually pretty darn inspiring. So here's what it says. It says, we see the Centers for Spiritual Living as a global community of inspired individuals caring for and about each other and the entire planetary family, thereby bringing the gift of active compassion and kindness to the world. Our local ministries and communities become points of inspiration and influence, effectively advancing the vision of the global heart to benefit all life. I love this part. And by the way, don't you love thinking about yourself as a point of inspiration and influence? You are that, I promise you. She goes on to say, we envision humanity awakening to its spiritual magnificence and discovering the creative power of thought, where each and every person discovers his or her own personal power and ability to create an individual life that works within a global reality that works for everyone. So our goal here our goal is to awaken ourselves, design and architect a life that we love, where we are living peace, we are living love, we are living prosperity, we're living meaningful lives where we're making a difference, where we're contributing to others, where we literally stop, awakening humanity to its spiritual magnificence is an amazing vision. And I'm pretty sure it requires that we let our past be the past, forgive ourselves, love ourselves, raise our own self-esteem, let other people off the hook, be kind, compassionate, loving, and do what we can. And just do what we can, and everybody's at a different level of awakening. And don't be insulted by that word. Awakening just simply means kind of a getting over the past, getting into the present moment more than living in the past or the future. And everybody's in a different place. You're in one place, I'm in one place. We're all on the same path. Some people are at mile 1 and some people are at mile 50, but you don't want to condemn the person at mile 1. You want to raise and praise them. You want to help them on the path, right? So Ernest said, or Beckwith, let's do Beckwith first. He also said, I read the first part of, forgive me, I have papers all over this place here. Well, I don't know what he said, but here. Oh, yes, that he was saying that we're held in the mind of God as meaningful and as important as any avatar or saint. And he says in that same paragraph, he says, this awareness enables you to move through society as a transforming agent who dares to stand in spiritual integrity, announcing the truth that love is the law of life. So the invitation here is you to just take a stand that I will not participate in the against energy anymore. I'm going to be for something against nothing. So Ernest Holmes, at the end of his, it would be wonderful indeed if a group of persons should arrive on earth who were for something and against nothing. Ended this by saying, find me someone who no longer has any fear. And I left this part out, but who no longer has any fear of the universe or of God or of man or of anything. Find me someone who no longer has any fear, and you will have brought to me someone in whose presence we may sit, and fear shall vanish as clouds before the sunlight. So if you take this message to heart and you really practice being in the present moments, practice compassion, practice kindness, practice being for every good thing you could possibly want for yourself and other people, and you can be one of those people in whose presence all fear will vanish. So that is the message today. I hope it brings you peace. I hope it brings you some way of dealing with the kerfuffle that's out in the world right now. I promise you it will pass. It always passes. Just remember that the difference that you make and that I make is that we can be for something, that we can bring love to any situation with our thoughts, our actions, and our feelings. So please do that. I'm going to pray for us. I'm going to do a prayer on closing. I do want to let you know before, because once I pray, we'll be done. I don't want to have to talk again. That this Sunday, which is Sunday Night Alive, which, by the way, is at 5 o'clock. I got a little kerfuffle today because I think I sent out the newsletter with 5 o'clock for this. But Sunday Night Alive is at 5 o'clock. We are doing radical self-care this Sunday, which is, I think, is just a blow off the top of your head kind of topic. So I just invite you to join us for Sunday Night Alive. We're here every Sunday. Also, if you want to support the work in some way with your love offering or a donation, you can do that through the PayPal account, which is revdschubert@gmail.com, or on my website. All right, so let us pray. Now, if you're new to this kind of prayer, this is affirmative prayer. We are not praying to anyone outside of ourselves. We're not begging a reluctant deity to bring us peace. We're actually praying to have a different idea, to change our minds, to align with the all good. And so I just invite you to join me in this moment, wherever you are. If you're in your living room, in your car, it doesn't really matter. We are connected, as I said, in consciousness. On the unseen side of life, we are one. And so I just invite you to close your outer eyes. We close the outer eyes. It is a symbolic gesture to let the world of the manifested world all be where it is, doing what it's doing. And we open our inner eyes to the unmanifested world, which is the source of everything that is. And it is that place within us where there is a calm and a peace. There is something within us that is unharmable, that is indestructible, that has not been affected in one iota, in any way by this life that we have lived. It is whole. It is perfect. It is perfect. And so we tap into that place now, that place where it's rather than a raging ocean, it's like a still lake. That within us is a lake. So if it ever gets too much outside, just turn inside to this peaceful lake. And so it is in that place, and from that place of connection, of community, of wholeness, of oneness, that I just speak a word for and about each person within the sound of my voice. Simply recognizing that there is a power, there is a presence, there is an intelligence, there is a wisdom, there is a love, there is a joy that is everywhere present, that it is undergirding us, it is cradling us, it is within us, that we did not make ourselves, we did not make anything, that the awe of this planet, the awe of this body, the awe of this beauty it's like water to the fish. We live and move and have our beingness in it, and it lives and moves and has its beingness in us. So I call this God. You can call it Mother, Father, God. You can call it Infinite One, love, intelligence, but it is right where we are. And so the word that I speak for each one of us is that we find that we think a new thought. We have a new idea, that we come out of any tension or anxiety or fear about the future, that we come right into this present moment and we just sit where we are, a more peaceful way, that all of the heavy lifting is done in consciousness, all of it. Abraham says that you do your work in the silence and then your actions will become inspired. And so what I know is that as we make the shift from against to for, from judgment to acceptance, from fear to faith, as we make these shifts, our lives become exalted. The mountains too high to climb become leveled, and it becomes calm. And so I know that as we do this, that we lift others, that we lift everyone within the sphere of our influence and beyond, that we become men and women who become a generative force for good in the world, that we become people who make a difference. We become a positive and affirmative influence. And I know that as we do that, the future. Tonight, I'm so grateful to be able to bless us, to have us leave this time of blessing and prayer into our evening, continuing to allow for the inner wisdom and guidance within us to inform us, to inspire us. And I know that every footstep we take from this phone call forward opens up a wider and wider path to the awakening of ourselves to our own spiritual magnificence. And so I release this word into a law that only and never says yes. I release this word into the manifesting creative principle. So I know that we can leave this time accepting and expecting its fulfillment, for the seeds have been planted and surely they must grow. And so for this and so much more, I'm grateful. We let this be in its fullness, and we affirm it for ourselves, ourselves, each other, and the world together by saying, and so it is. Amen. All right, everybody. Namaste to you. I love you, and I will see you on Sunday. Peace and blessings.